On today's episode of Among the Clouds, I'm talking to Paul Baker from the band Static Daydream. Paul's released albums with Skywave, Ceremony, and his latest album, Cracked Inside, was released in late 2019. We talk about all things shoegaze and dream pop, the songwriting and recording process, as well as how Paul enjoys the collaborative process. Stay tuned. Hey, Paul, how's it going? Thanks for joining me on the Among the Clouds thing.
Oh, it's great to be with you and good to talk to you again.
Some people might know this, but we already filmed one of these, and I'm an idiot and forgot to hit record. So we're doing this for a second time, and we're going to have lots of fun.
Yes, absolutely. Not that you're an idiot, but we're going to have fun.
Well, my wife might disagree. So what? Tell me a little bit. How did you discover shoegaze, and was there any gateway bands that led up to shoegaze, or how did you discover it?
I think I got very lucky at the time that I got a guitar because this was maybe 1990. So I had just discovered The Cure and Disintegration.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I bought my first crappy electric guitar in 1991.
Mm-hmm.
It was crappy, like a bad heavy metal guitar.
I had some too, so
yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But
right.
Somehow I found a couple of guitar magazines that had features on really cool bands. Guitar World, I think, had a feature on My Bloody Valentine, and strangely enough, I found this British magazine, I think that was just called Guitar.
Mm-hmm.
When I was going to visit relatives in Tennessee, I found this magazine in like a drugstore or something that had My Bloody Valentine and the Jesus and Mary Chain on the cover. And they were the two main bands that were featured in this magazine. Without really knowing anything about these bands, I just read about them and thought that they seemed very interesting and unlike bands that would be in guitar magazines.
Right.
So they were talking about, reverse reverb and, fuzz pedals, and, all kinds of things that I didn't really understand.
Right.
But they didn't seem like the bands that should be in guitar magazines.
Right. It wasn't CC DeVille or Slash at that time.
Exactly. They looked weird. They sounded weird. And this was right at the same time, I guess, that Loveless came out. Like, I was actually watching 120 Minutes late at night on Sunday nights. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, MTV was pushing these British bands. Would watch My Bloody Valentine, Lush,
right,
Jesus and Mary Chain.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed like it opened an entirely new world to me.
I understand.
I got lucky. That was right when I got an electric guitar. Although I couldn't figure out how to make my electric guitar sound like theirs.
Well, I still can't, so don't feel bad.
Well, that's true.
Oh, thanks for agreeing that I can't do that either. So the point is,
bro.
No, I know, I'm joking. Right. So a lot of us discovered these things on 120 Minutes at that time. And, 120 Minutes would play like 2 or 3 shoegaze dream pop videos, maybe the last hour of the episode, and there was always some good stuff on there. It was a fun time. So you get your guitar, your heavy metal guitar. I hope you send me a picture this one day of you and this guitar.
It was a Washburn.
I know people had many Washburns. So you hear the shoegaze songs. At what point are you starting to think about writing your own songs?
When I was in middle school, all right, I'll try to keep this short, but when I was in middle school in Virginia Beach, there was a shopping mall across the street from my middle school. So a lot of days, rather than take the bus home from school, I would just walk across the street to the shopping mall, and my parents would pick me up a few hours later. So I would go wander around the record stores in the shopping mall, and whatever things in the record stores looked interesting to me, I would then go to the bookstore and find a book about write-ups on every band that I could think of.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever thing I thought looked interesting, I would then go read about. And I think that the Jesus and Mary chain seemed the most interesting to me, thinking about these two weird guys from this small town in Scotland who got a little bit of money from their dad's severance pay or something.
Right.
Got a 4-track and a drum machine. And I thought, oh, that wouldn't really take that much. Like, I don't have any friends. I don't know anybody around here. But if I could just get a drum machine and a fuzz pedal and a bass, maybe I could actually make music. I know, very naive, but it made it seem possible.
Right. And that was one of the great things about it was, you know, they were using pretty primitive equipment, but still getting their point across and making songs that still stand up today, with not having a lot of knowledge or musical skill per se. So yeah, I could see why it'd be inspiring.
Yeah, simple 3-chord songs. Also, I loved girl groups from the 60s, from cassettes that my dad had. And I didn't know it at the time, but I think a big part of what I loved about it was the use of reverb in the 60s.
Right. And the Phil Spector stuff.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And the louder you turn it up, the better it sounded.
Well, I can definitely hear those influences and the stuff you do. I can hear Jesus Mary Chain and I can hear Phil Spector stuff. So yeah, it makes sense.
But I love the weird warbling guitars of my buddy Valentine, the beautiful harmonies and guitar parts of Slow Dive. It, to me, it all just made sense together.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say there was one thing, but probably The Cure Disintegration was the one thing that set me off on a different path.
I mean, it's such a unique album. It's definitely has its own atmosphere, its own world that it like encompasses. So yeah, you can't go wrong with Disintegration. You put it up against any shoegaze stuff and, you know, it's still just as dreamy and holds its own for sure.
There are 2 albums that I learned how to play guitar to, and those would be Disintegration and Psycho Kid.
Mm-hmm.
So those still for me are my 2 favorite albums, I guess.
Okay, so you formed Skywave with Oliver and John in 1995. That eventually fizzles out. You and John go on to form Ceremony. You do a couple albums, and then around 2012, you go on your own and start Static Daydream. That's right. Been your main band since, and you've released 2 albums, an EP, a bunch of cover songs, things like that. I was lucky enough to play on one cover song you did of The Cure, and I also play on a song off your last album, which was called Way Too Deep. Huh? Wrote it down.
That's good. I was trying to remember the name of that one too, actually.
Paul has played on a whimsical song off our last album called This Is Goodbye. And he also did a remix, which I was able to talk you into doing. You'd never done one before. And I guilted you into that. You did a remix for Take All of Me.
I had a good time doing that. I thought it was really cool and fun.
You start Static Daydream, 2012. Was it kind of just a continuation of what you're doing with Skywave and Ceremony? At what point does Jamie join? Walk me through that process.
Musically, I think it was very similar. I happened to meet her right around the time that I ended up starting Static Daydream. But I also, with ceremony, we were generally thinking about how to make music, using drum machines and program bass lines that we could perform live. But since I didn't really have any interest in playing live at that point, it made it easier for me to just focus on recording.
With Static Daydream.
Yes, that's correct. So I guess I was able to use effects a little bit more.
Right. It was more about having fun in the studio and producing a song without the limitations of how am I going to play this live, and do I need 10 guitar players to pull this off live? And you could just write the song and do whatever you want to create the song.
Yeah, that. And I also knew that Jamie wasn't really interested in performing live.
When you're writing a song for Static Daydream, are you picking up an acoustic or a regular guitar and just noodling around until something comes up that is interesting to you, or are you using effects to kind of guide where the song goes? You know what I'm saying? The effect is kind of guiding you into the songwriting. What's your usual approach with that?
I would say like 75% of the time, it's just playing guitar through a distorted amp, but without any kind of specific effects.
Mm-hmm.
So then the other 25% might be more heavily reliant on certain effects.
When you're writing your songs, are you using a basic pop song structure? Like, are you trying to do like a verse, chorus, middle, verse, chorus, end types thing, or are you kind of just letting the song guide you? However the song is how the song is. Like, do you keep that in mind when you're writing a song?
Again, I think it's probably 75-25%. 75% of the time, I would say that I write a very structured pop song,
Mm-hmm.
chorus, bridge, all that stuff.
So when you go to record, is the whole song written and you program your drums? I know you and I have talked in the past where you'll program kind of a basic beat, start recording or whatever, and then you'll go back and like spice up the fills or change some stuff around. But is the song already written on guitar, or is it something where you have a verse and a chorus and then you start recording and you kind of just piece it together and write as you go?
I think I prefer to go into it knowing what the structure is. As far as playing and recording, like I kind of want to record most of the guitar parts from start to finish.
Right. Okay.
So like the structure should be there from beginning to end.
When you go to track your guitars, you're recording start to finish. You're not cutting and pasting and moving stuff around.
For the most part. I mean, at least several rhythm guitar tracks start to finish.
Okay.
And then if, different lead parts, I might cut and paste those.
Sure.
Especially things with a specific or, special effect going on or something like that. Like I almost don't like having too many options because
Right.
I'll just end up not getting anything done.
Right. Option paralysis or whatever. Yeah. Even not a plugin where it's like a virtual instrument and you go through the menus and there's like, here's 300 different synth sounds. It's like, can you just give me 10, please? I don't want to have to go through all those and try to figure out, what'll work and what won't work, because I'll never get it done.
Yeah, or you'll spend your whole night just scrolling through them and then realize you haven't gotten anything done.
Right. You kind of use the limited resources you have to be more creative. So when you are recording your guitars, are you using an amp and a mic, or are you using virtual amps, or a combination of the two?
Generally, I go through my pedal board and use virtual amps.
Okay.
And then sometimes, pretty much if I want feedback or spring reverb crashes, That's when
Hmm.
I'll use real reverbs.
When you're recording your guitars, are you recording everything into the DAW with wet, all your effects, or are you recording, um, like a basic distortion and fuzz, and then adding effects later in your DAW?
I use my pedal board for most everything. As far as plugins, is if I want some kind of a delay sound that is synced perfectly.
Even reverbs coming off your pedal board, or is that
Then,
added? Okay.
but I try to be, as tight as you can be with normal pedals.
Right. Right. Keep it human. Well, in the past, you and I have talked about you use fuzz pedals, which is something that I own a bunch of, but for whatever reason, I can't get away with using fuzz pedals. But they work for you. Is there a specific fuzz that you're using for majority of the time? Like, do you have a go-to? Like, I'm doing the basic rhythms with this fuzz, and then overdubs would be a different version. Is it dependent on which fuzz sounds best with a particular song, or how do you go about that?
I guess what I usually do, especially using them for rhythms, is I'll record like maybe 4 tracks that are identical using different fuzz pedals, and just
Mm-hmm.
have it panned hard left, hard right, and then somewhere closer to the middle.
Well, you definitely have a very claustrophobic sound, and I don't mean that negatively. So that would explain how you're getting that sound. Are you using the same guitar and just using different fuzzes, or are you changing up guitars too to get a slightly different sounds?
Usually changing up the fuzzes and guitars.
Oh,
Different big muffs and Death by Audio, Apocalypse, Fuzz Pedal is awesome. We talked about this, the Super Fuzz thing.
mm-hmm.
So I have a Butterfly Effects clone of Super Fuzz for the Shinai.
Right.
But also the Way Huge Jumbo Fuzz pedal. I use it a lot. The Boss Hyper Fuzz.
And we've talked in the past before, and I don't remember exactly what you said, but like on the end of This Is Goodbye, where you sent me like 12 tracks or something of just chaotic craziness. What exactly was that? Was you? I think were you hooking up different phasers and flangers together with the fuzzes, or what were you doing?
Oh, you're talking about my vacuum cleaner sound?
That might be the one I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's I mean, I never try to do it the same way twice.
Hmm.
It's usually 2 or 3 tracks pinned, one centered, and different combinations of flange, phaser, delay, and reverb. Yeah.
But you're saying that you're laying different tracks using different things, but I could solo each track, and each track sound like a chaotic swarm of bees coming at me. So there's still stuff going on in just one track that isn't just there's a phaser on this track, and a flanger on this track. There's definitely stuff going on per track. So was it multiple phasers? Are you layering phasers?
Yeah,
Or,
most likely. It's multiple tracks. And on
okay,
each track, the flanger and the phaser are set slightly differently.
got it.
Not dramatically differently, but one might be a little bit faster or slower. Yeah,
There's
I definitely
definitely they're fighting each other in a good way, I guess is what I'm saying.
yeah, I'm not trying to duplicate the same track
Hmm.
and then do another track with slightly different settings.
Right.
So then, yes, as you pointed out, yes, they're all fighting with each other.
Like when you sent me those tracks, I was like, okay, I have no idea how he's doing that or what he's using to do it, but it's fun because it's something that I would never do. You know what I mean? I could never do that. Even if I was like okay, I know what he did and how he did it. If I tried to do it with my gear, it wouldn't sound the same.
I don't really have that much control over it. It's always an experiment. And there are a lot of times when I delete these tracks because they just don't sound good.
Yeah, it's funny how many times I record something. Usually happens on some sort of overdub, and I'll think, "Oh man, this is amazing," and I'll even text Chrissy like, "Oh man, I wrote this amazing hook. You're gonna love it over this part." And the next morning, I wake up and listen to it. And I'm like, "This doesn't even work at all. Like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, this totally changed like the original riff underneath it. Now it completely changed the feel of it. But at the time, I'm concentrating so hard on the overdub that I'm not hearing the stuff behind it and stuff. That happens to me all the time. I think I go to bed so happy and I wake up and listen to it. And I'm like, wow, fuck, I wasted so many hours figuring this stuff out. And it was all a waste of time. It sucks. So you and I have both recorded guest spots on each other's songs. You've played on some Whimsical stuff. I've played on some Static Daydream stuff. Is the collaboration process something you enjoy?
Yeah, definitely. I like asking people to play on my songs when I know that what they're going to do is going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like throwing it out there to just random people because then I feel very awkward if I don't use the name. On the other hand, if somebody asks me to play on a song and record some tracks, I honestly don't. I won't have my feelings hurt if they don't really like it or if they, don't want to use it. I mean, that's fine. Like that doesn't bother me. Maybe I should be a little bit more adventurous, but usually I'm not because I kind of already have an idea of what I'm trying to go for.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably only ask somebody to do that if I know that they're already on the same page. And they could probably do it a little bit better than I could, such as, your guitar part on Way Too Deep. Kind of knew that you were going to nail that, and you did.
Of course I did. It's me. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know.
No, but it's funny. I listened to the song today for the first time in a while, and I was like, "Man, it totally sounds like I'm just playing a whimsical riff over your stuff." I mean, it works. Hopefully, you liked it.
No, it works perfectly.
But yeah, I remember when I sent it to you, I was like, "Oh man, I hope he doesn't hate this."
No, not at all. I mean, I think it fit perfectly.
When you did the stuff for This Is Goodbye, I mean, I had no idea what you were going to send me. And then you sent me like 10 or 12 tracks, and each one of them was like so chaotic. And I'm going, how am I going to mix this in? Because that ending already had, I don't even know how many tracks I had in there, but it was already pretty full. And then here comes Paul and his vacuum cleaner parade. And I was like, okay, I'm going to pan each one just a little bit different.
Messing around with a song like yours is kind of fun for me because that's something that's a little bit different.
Right.
Doesn't mean that I'm doing it well, but it's something that's different. And, again, you can pick and choose, do whatever you want with it, when it comes to recording the vocals, I really do try to do these double and triple vocals, as precisely as possible so that I can turn them up and they don't sound strange.
When you're double tracking, are you listening to the original, or are you muting it and then just doing a new one, muting that, doing, a third one, and then combining them? And you know what I mean? You're not listening to the previous track while you're recording, are you?
No, just one at a time. For me, to sing without having your guitar on is really, really awkward.
Mm-hmm.
So when I record vocal tracks, I feel kind of naked just standing there with headphones on and a microphone because I'm so used to singing and playing guitar at the same time.
So you're not sitting down at your computer, you actually stand up and have the mic and everything?
Yeah, I'd rather stand up and sing.
Okay.
but I would rather be standing there with a guitar. It's easier for me to keep time with everything.
I get it. Makes sense.
And yes,
I've seen other people do it.
I'm tapping my leg or something.
If you had to pick one song that is your favorite shoegaze song, and then if you also had to pick your favorite song that you've done, what would they be and why?
For a different artist, I would probably choose the song She Calls by Slow Dive. Just because I love the fact that it's so spooky and ethereal. It also rocks. So I think that's a really great combination.
Right.
As far as my own songs, maybe the song Until You're Mine, a lot of great guitar sounds going on.
Well, thanks, Paul. Thanks for doing the episode. This is our second time trying to film this, and I am recording this time. Where can people find Static Daydream?
We have plenty of stuff on YouTube, Bandcamp, SoundCloud.
So the usual. And I'll post links down below where people can find your stuff. And yeah, anything else you want to say?
No, just thanks so much for having this conversation with me. It's been really nice.
It has been nice. Thanks, Paul.
I think take 2 was better than take 1.
We'll never know because it never got recorded. Well, that's it for this episode. I'd like to thank Paul for doing the interview with me twice. I think the second time went better than the first time, considering I didn't record the first one. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.